Hey, I'm Doug Draper with Acme Distribution and the Denver Transportation Club, and I'm pleased to present our series, The Supply Chain Logistics, The Storytellers. This series is brought to you by CAP Logistics. CAP Logistics are experts in customized transportation solutions for every need, so please visit caplogistics.com today. So I'm excited about today's topic and our guest for sure. Let's go with the topic first, and then we'll jump in. So we're going to be navigating and finding success in export financing. And our storyteller today is Bryson Patterson, who's the Regional Export Finance Manager for the USBA, Small Business Association. Here. Administration, thank you very much. And you cover Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good deal.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Doug. Appreciate being here.
Of course, yeah. So before we jump into the topic, tell us a little bit about yourself personally and kind of your journey and how you ended up here in Colorado.
Yeah, sure. I've been with SBA for 10 years now, and the last 7 years I've been doing this in Colorado, helping small business exporters and banks to use SBA loan guarantee programs. Let's see. I always joke. I got in with SBA out of graduate school. Before that, I did sort of everything you could possibly do to make money. So it's been an interesting ride. Very happy to be here in Colorado. It's a great business community. People are very welcoming, and it's just been a terrific experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about defining the Colorado. So let's just do a quick overview of the Small Business Administration and kind of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so SBA is an interesting agency. It's a small agency. I think we've got about 2,500 total employees, which, relative to other federal agencies is like a drop in the bucket. And we've got a really broad mission because we're helping small businesses in a lot of aspects. We call it 3 C's and a D, and so we provide, most people know the SBA from the capital programs, and my uncle got an SBA loan to do something, or that's usually what people associate the SBA with. But in addition to loan programs, we have a counseling program. The Small Business Development Center program is funded by SBA. Here in Colorado, that's through the Office of International Trade, Economic Development International Trade at the state. And we've got small business development centers throughout the state, La Junta, Grand Junction, Durango, Montrose, Greeley, Fort Morgan, and then also in the metro area, North Metro, South Metro. And that's a place where small businesses can go and get free counseling and low-cost training on all kinds of topics. So that's a great one. Also, the Service Corps of Retired Executives SCORE is exactly what it is. It's people who've made money in business and they're volunteering their time to mentor, counsel people who are trying to start a business. And so that's another great organization that people can connect with SBA and our Women's Business Center out on Federal. So that's our counseling component. There's also a contracting component. So we provide, we run the federal government small business set-aside program, which 23% of all federal contracts are supposed to go to small businesses. And so we operate that program. And the other program that we have is a disaster program. If there's a nationally declared disaster, like when the Poudre River flooded a few years ago, or when we had that hailstorm out in Lakewood, both business owners and homeowners can get a direct SBA loan for uninsured loss if they've experienced that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like I said, SBA has a broad mission to assist small businesses, but I'm on the capital side, so I'm helping businesses to access those loan guarantee programs and specifically exporting. And so that's where I come in.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for that summary. Question that just popped up. So do you you can get counseling services through the SBA and have nothing to do with the financing aspect of it?
Absolutely.
You say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes what I see is, businesses come in, and those counseling services, they need something like getting the doors open. How do I start up, that sort of stuff. And they kind of get through that, and then they come back a few years later and they need some help with, I need to start bringing on employees. What do I need to do? And so they come back, and so we've got an ongoing relationship with businesses in that way. And then eventually, sometimes they come back and say, you know what, I want to buy my building, or it's
Right.
time to expand, or it's time to go to a second location. And that's usually when they're looking for the credit assistance.
Huh, that's terrific. I did not know that. That's good.
Mhm.
So if I'm a listener and I'm hearing all the cool stuff that you can offer, what defines a small business? What parameters do you use? Because if I'm listening, like, hey, I don't know if I fit in that category or not.
Yeah.
So talk about what defines a small business in your eyes to get access
Yep.
to those services.
No, great question. So in the U.S., we basically have large businesses and small businesses. Most businesses are small. A sort of rule of thumb for a manufacturing firm, 100 employees or fewer would be a small business.
Wow, okay.
So pretty much most folks are. We can go beyond that sometimes. That's what's a small business often is driven by the contracting rules. And so I was working on a deal once for an aircraft manufacturer. What's a small aircraft manufacturer? Turns out 1,500 employees or fewer is a small aircraft manufacturer.
Oh my goodness.
So we were able to help this business to get a loan together, because relative to Boeing, Airbus, it's a small business.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I never would. My gut was 10 people,
Right.
10 employees or less. So that's really good. And is it changed by industry?
It does change by industry. So, for example, architecture and engineering firms, we've got a slightly lower level at 7.5 million in revenue or less. So that's, there are going to be a lot fewer people at a firm like that, as opposed to 1,500 people at an aircraft firm.
So it could be revenue related, or just number of employees, or a mixture thereof.
So it varies. I mean, I think most people, most businesses are small businesses, and so ask the question: if at your bank, if you're looking to access these programs, am I a small business? And we can happy to look into it and see would you qualify or not.
Yeah, and don't assume that you wouldn't.
Right.
Right. I think those are good parameters. So I fit that category as a small business. I need to come in and access some capital. What are some of the traditional financing options that I have when I come in and I'm opening a restaurant like we spoke about earlier, or I'm making a widget for an airplane?
Yeah.
Talk about the options I have.
Sure. And I think, so you come into your bank, and I think one of the things I always talk to small businesses about is making your banker part of your team. Having a relationship with your banker, knowing your banker, talking to them about where you want to take your business. And so when you come in, you speak with the banker and you say, hey, here's what we're going to do in the next 3 months. Here's what we're going to do in the next 6 months. Here's what we're going to do in the next 12 months. And then when you come back in 6 months later, you say, hey, remember I told you we were going to be, I was going to need to open a line of credit because we have these growth plans. Well, guess what? Things have been going great. We've landed the customers. We need to move forward with that. So it's not the first time the bank's hearing about it, and they know what's going on with the business. And so, traditional banking, it can be a tremendous tool for small business, and particularly very small businesses. If you've got a good relationship with your banker, it's like having an outside CFO. They're seeing other businesses that are similar to you. They're looking at what's going on in the market, and so they can bring a lot of value to what you're doing in your business.
Gotcha. So part of having this show and learning a lot about different entities, the question I have is the SBA an advocate? Are they lending the money per se, or are they just advocating next to the borrower and guaranteeing the payments?
Great question, Doug.
Make it super simple, I guess.
No, absolutely. So a lot of times I joke, I say, SBA is the but, and I say, but what? You got a great business, and you're going to borrow money, and you go into the bank and they say, yeah, well, this is great, we're going to lend you money, but, and the but is, wow, you're exporting now, and you've never done that before.
Right.
But you've only been in business for 6 months. But you've got a personal bankruptcy. So whatever there is, there's that there's something that's causing some issues with your credit, and the bank's reluctant to maybe make that loan. That's where, as a small business owner, you say, hey, I'm a small business, I would be eligible for an SBA loan. So SBA comes in, we will provide a guarantee. And that's a guarantee not to the business owner or the business, but to the bank.
Okay.
Right. And so our guarantees vary between 50% and 90%. The 90% guarantee level is only available to small business exporters, because we always want to encourage small business growth, but we particularly want to encourage export businesses. And so export businesses can get that 90% guarantee on their loans from the bank. So the way that we do that is we'll charge a guarantee fee, and that varies, but it's typically it's about 2.5% to 3.5%, depending on the size of the loan. Larger loans have larger guarantee fees. That covers SBA's loss rate. And so that way we're able to operate the loan programs without any subsidy from the taxpayers. They pay for themselves.
Okay, so it's kind of like a premium.
Yep, exactly.
And that's the responsibility of the borrower, or that's just part of what the bank?
Typically, it'll be rolled into the loan amount, and so it's not such a big hit. You don't have to, come up with the 3% of whatever you're borrowing right there. They'll roll it into the loan amount, and the fee will be paid to SBA, and that way you can access. And what I always say about SBA, if you come into the bank and you don't have a butt, and you're going to do conventional credit, that's great. That's terrific. That's what you're supposed to do. But if that butt is there and you need that guarantee, then we can provide that guarantee and hopefully help you access the credit that you need to grow your business.
No, that's a great way to describe it. I appreciate that. So obviously you're on the export financing piece of it, and there's companies that import or just make things domestically. Talk about, is going to get access to capital different for exporting? You had mentioned the 90% guarantee on export business.
Yeah.
That would be an example. Are there other examples, or how does it differ on the lending?
Sure. So I think when you have that relationship with your bank, just like when you're exporting, you've got to build that team to build your business just like you would domestically. And so you've got your banker, you've got your freight forwarder, you've got all those people, those expertise, your accountant. A lot of times most small businesses have an outside accountant. You're bringing those people in to assist you to grow your export business, and they're all bringing knowledge and ability. So some interesting things that open up on the export side, and what I work on specifically. So you have that relationship with the bank, and the bank's trying to set something up where, they're secure. They're usually using a loan guarantee, perhaps. The other thing sometimes that they'll do is they'll put you, and we say, on a little tighter leash. And so you come in, you want a line of credit. A lot of times they'll give you, say, a signature line of credit. Say, hey, you can borrow up to $100,000 on this revolving line of credit, and you just draw it out whenever you need it and pay it back when you don't. And that's fine, but maybe your business needs $200,000. And so one of the ways you can work with your bank, and if you've got a good relationship with them, you can get on a tighter leash and say, hey, you know what? Let's do a revolving line of credit, but we're only going to draw if we've got invoices. And so you get that invoice, and then you can come in and draw against that. So it's more like a purchase order financing structure, where you're just drawing down as those are coming in. And so you can work with your bank to set up a structure that's going to work for them. It's going to enable you to access the credit that you need.
Gotcha. Very interesting. We had talked a couple of days ago when we were, getting to know each other a little bit. We talked about kind of new technologies out there, and the question. Let me back up a little bit to give context to the question. You hear about companies raising money through Kickstarter, GoFundMe pages. My 17-year-old kid wants to Venmo money. All these different methods of not only transacting, but how do you gain financing? Talk a little bit about how that technology that's growing so rapidly is impacting the SBA process and the lending. I don't know if it's caught up yet, if it's really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Hopefully that question makes sense to you.
Yeah. One of the things, I think we've heard a lot about, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so on the international side, we've heard, oh, wow, these e-currencies are going to take the place of real currency, right? And that's how they're going to transact. And I don't know that we've seen that so much happening. But I think one of the things that's been really interesting for small business, particularly on the foreign exchange side, is the ability to make payments internationally. So there's a couple of companies out there that will allow you basically to set up a local bank presence in a foreign country, and you can provide your customer with a local bank account number, and they just wire the money directly into that bank, typically in the local currency. And then these companies are providing on the back end this seamless transfer of that money to the United States and conversion to U.S. dollars. And that's really exciting. And I think that's made it a lot easier for small businesses to offer more competitive terms overseas, and to actually price in foreign currency, which was something that they never really could do before. It was kind of cumbersome. You'd have to work with your bank. Larger companies are able to do it, but not necessarily the smallest ones. And so that's been very interesting how that's come about. On the equity side, yeah, Kickstarter, it's amazing the number of businesses that are getting started with that kind of equity stuff, equity injections. But I think that in some, in certain industries that's really large. But I think for a lot of your sort of mom and pop companies, no, it's more traditional funding mechanisms like banks seem to be primarily still the bread and butter.
Yeah, it sounds cool, and everybody, the new technology, makes the headlines, but still the traditional. Let's use the SBA to help us get the capital. It's still the primary, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, speaking of disruptive technologies and processes out there, Amazon, right, is really changing the way consumers buy and purchase. And we were talking a little bit about the Amazon effect on a variety of different things. So talk about the Amazon effect as it's impacting the SBA and the lending process. We had a discussion on that a few minutes ago.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's been really fascinating. I would say, in the last few years, one of the big things that we've seen on the export side are really small businesses, literally mom and pop and maybe, brother-in-law, right?
Right.
3 people, 5 people. And these small businesses are using some of the online retail platforms like Amazon to grow incredibly rapidly. And so they'll sort of get started. They'll sell a few things. They'll start out on Amazon. They're selling on Amazon. And then next thing you know, they're getting that Prime designation. And so when they get that Prime designation, now they're stocking all these warehouses. And so they've got an incredible inventory build that they've got to do really quickly. And that presents problems for banks, right? Because it's like, wow, okay, so you're going to take this business from, say, a $100,000 a year business to, a $1.5 million a year business over the course of 12 months or 18 months. Like that's scary for lenders. And so a lot of times they're coming in, they're getting that SBA guarantee to do that. And, internationally what happens, they start out with U.S. Amazon, and they get that Prime designation, and very quickly they get the pressure to, hey, let's get Amazon Canada, let's get Amazon Mexico, let's make this product available worldwide. And so that kind of growth has really been unbelievable.
Does that scare the SBA and the banks? Like, you have a gentleman or a woman that's incredibly passionate about their product, and sky's the limit, and Amazon is allowing them to see their dreams happen very rapidly. Are the banks and the SBA like, okay, hold on a second, let's be realistic about this? No,
it's super exciting for us. On the SBA side, we're agnostic about risk. We let the banks make the risk decisions, and so a lot of times they're bringing us on for that very reason. That, wow, this thing's growing really quick, and is it? I mean, I think a lot of times lenders wonder, is this? I can't think of a good example, but is this something that's going to persist through time, or is this a pet rock? Right? Is it is everybody going to get one, and then all of a sudden it's sort of a fad type thing, and it'll die away? So bringing SBA on to offset that risk, I think that's what we're here for.
Right. Gotcha. So we talked about Amazon a little bit. So the USMCA is a topic that we've had here on the show before. And those changes. Some people say it's dramatically changed, and some folks are like, it's kind of the same, maybe in cursive this time versus italic. So talk about the USMCA and your...
Yeah, sure. It was interesting. This trade negotiation, actually, SBA was part of the trade negotiations for the first time ever, and so we've had some folks from our agency on the team. And I guess probably from a small business perspective, I mean, one of the main things I think that they'll notice is, and it's really related to the Amazon sales, that the de minimis amount's going to be raised for both Canada and Mexico. And it's going up to $117, which isn't huge. But a lot of purchases on Amazon are that or lower. And so I think that that's going to enable a lot of businesses to sell B2C into those markets without having to pay tariffs.
Explain to the audience what de minimis.
De minimis.
De minimis, yeah.
Right. So shipments below a certain amount aren't going to won't be required to pay tariffs. And so, if you order something online and it's less than $117, then you won't be responsible for tariffs. And one of the issues I think that that these Amazon sellers have and online retailers have is people order something and then it comes to their door and the postman says, okay, well, yeah, this thing cost you, $50 a sweater or something. Now you need to pay another $50 in duties and tariffs before I can give this to you.
Right.
Which is a big inhibitor for small business trying to do that business to consumer sales over the internet. And so I think that's going to present some good opportunities, and we'll see.
Gotcha. And that's just for clarification, that $117 is for importing, or it's for me as a manufacturer here in the U.S. to do the export? That's
to do the export, yeah.
Okay.
And I believe it goes the other way too. So basically, anybody can ship anything within North America if it's valued at less than $117 without having to pay any tariffs on it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. What was the number before? Do you remember?
I think it was $20.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 100 or something.
No.
That's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And that was related to the USMCA, or
it's one of the points in the agreement.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Random question: why 117? Why not 125?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the U.S. Trade Representative that one. I have no idea.
Gotcha. Any other significant changes with the USMCA related to SBA beyond that?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, that's sort of, that's one thing that I noticed that I think might be a good opportunity for small business, but that's thing's pretty thick. I haven't read it.
I was about to say, do you know on page 500 or page 723?
Yeah.
Who knows? Good deal. So if I come to you and say, I'm going to start a new business and I'm going to make pens and export them all over the world, kind of what would be the 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give to me?
Sure. I mean, going back to, build that team, and I probably sound like a broken record, but it's so important to get those expertise on board with your business. Like I said, your accountant, your freight forwarder, your lender. Those are all people who are going to look at this business plan, this export business plan, from another perspective, and have an export business plan. Just like you have a business plan to open your business, to start your business, to bring on your employees, to grow from one location to 2 locations. You need a plan to grow from, to grow your export business.
Sure.
And so really thinking that through and figuring out, what resources are available, what am I going to do to do that. And I've seen businesses just be tremendously successful.
Gotcha. And as far as that export business plan, obviously some of the other services that you spoke about, the 3 C's and a D, like, hey, come and use those resources that we have available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Connect with SBA. In fact, we've got a tool online. If you search SBA Export Business Plan, there's an online business plan that you can download and fill out with links to all kinds of resources that can assist you.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And what's the website that you would go to for that?
www.sba.gov, and that's sort of the jumping off point where you can find all kinds of information and connect with us. And we're here to help. We want to see small businesses succeed and grow, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's terrific. 3 C's and a D sounds more like my report card in school, so I'm glad that you clarified that. And what's the name of the resource group? You said it was SCORE or something like that?
SCORE, yeah. So if you go to scoredenver.org, you can connect with SCORE or search for our small business development centers or women's business centers out on Federal.
That's great. Well, I personally have learned a lot, so hopefully our audience has as well, and I can't thank you enough for being here today. It's been a terrific storyteller, so thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Doug. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want to thank our audience for joining us today on the Connect and Collaborate Network, featuring supply chain and logistics. The Storytellers, obviously brought to you by Cap Logistics.